Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! My boy, full of life and curiosity, had always been drawn to stories of brave swordsmen and their epic battles. I saw the fire in his eyes whenever he listened to those tales, so it wasn't a surprise when he asked me if he could learn swordsmanship himself. He was just a young lad, barely tall enough to see over the counter at the bakery, but his determination was strong. One day after school he came home and said, "Mom, I want to learn how to use a sword, like the heroes." I couldn't help but smile. "Well, my little hero, if that's what you want, we will find a way." After some searching, I discovered the Kendo Dojo nearby. It seemed like a good fit, a place where he could learn discipline and honor along with his sword skills. And so we found ourselves stepping into the dojo for the first time. The atmosphere was thick with the sounds of wooden swords clashing and a shuffling of feet. My boy's eyes widened with amazement as he watched the students practice. Then a kind-looking instructor approached us. "Interested in enrolling your son?" he asked with a friendly grin. I nodded. Yes, he's really excited about learning. From that moment, our routine began. Every week, I would bring my boy to the dojo. He'd don his uniform with a beaming face. The other students were welcoming, and soon he had friends to share his passion with. I remember the first time he picked up a wooden sword, he held it with such grace. During training, his focus was on point and his movements surprisingly fluid. The instructor and the other parents praised his skills. "He's a natural." One parent commented to me during a practice session, "You must be so proud." I couldn't help but feel a swell of pride. My boy was indeed talented, and his excitement was a joy to witness. For a while, everything seemed perfect, but life has a way of shaking things up a little bit. One evening, as I watched my son spar with a fellow student, something unexpected happened. During a swift exchange of strikes, my boy's foot got on a mat and he stumbled. At that moment, his opponent's wooden sword accidentally struck him on the wrist. I rushed to his side concerned. The instructor and the other parents gathered around. "Are you okay, baby?" I asked. He nodded, but with pain clearly written all over his face. The instructor apologized profusely, but accidents happen. We knew that. After the incident with my boy's wrist, we pressed on with our visits to the dojo as his wrist had healed nicely. Little did we know that a storm was brewing, and its name was Karen. One day as we arrived at the dojo, I noticed a woman with an air of arrogance about her. She had a child in tow, a boy who seemed to share his mother's entitled demeanor. It didn't take long for the whispers to spread among the other parents. Karen had enrolled her brat in our dojo. From the start, Karen made her presence known. She marched up to the instructor, interrupting his class mid-sentence, and I couldn't believe what I was hearing as she offered her unsolicited advice on how he should be teaching. My fellow parents exchanged looks, and eyebrows were raised in disbelief. As the weeks went on, Karen's interference became a regular occurrence. She'd shout instructions from the sidelines during sparring matches, acting as if she knew better than the senseis who had dedicated their lives to teaching martial arts. I remember one particularly cringe-worthy moment when she yelled, "Darling, you're not holding the wooden sword properly. Let me show you how a real warrior does it." But it wasn't just her interjections during class that irked us. Karen's arrogance extended to her interactions with other parents as well. She'd often boast about her son's exceptional talent and how he was destined for greatness. One afternoon, as I sat on the sidelines watching her boy spar, Karen plopped down next to me. "You know, my little boy has a natural gift for this. I'm thinking of suggesting a few changes to the sensei to really bring out his potential." I looked at her, struggling to maintain a polite expression. The senseis here are highly skilled and experienced. They know what they are doing. Karen waved her hand dismissively. "Oh, I'm sure they are good, but a fresh perspective can do wonders, you know?" I exchanged a knowing look with another parent nearby, rolling my eyes once Karen had turned her attention elsewhere. As the days turned into weeks, the tension in the dojo grew thicker. The sensei's patience was wearing thin, and the parents were growing increasingly fed up with Karen's antics. The tension caused by Karen's entitled behavior continued to simmer, but there was a new development: the announcement of a 1v1 small tournament among the kids. The day of the matches arrived and the dojo was buzzing with excitement. I watched as my boy stepped onto the mat, wooden sword in hand, ready to face off against his fellow students. After a couple of intense matches, it was time for my boy to face Karen's brat. The match was fierce, both boys displaying their skills, and in the end it was my boy who got the win. The room erupted in cheers and applause, fellow parents patting me on the back and congratulating my son. I watched him as he bowed respectfully to his opponent, but during all of that, Karen's shrill voice cut through the cheers.
"This is ridiculous! That match was rigged! Your kid cheated!"
I couldn't believe my ears as she continued to spew accusations. Other parents exchanged looks, clearly fed up with her nonsense. The senseis tried to defuse the situation, calmly explaining that the match had been fair and closely monitored. But Karen wasn't satisfied. She stormed toward the small arena with a furious expression. I watched as she berated my boy.
"You think you're so clever, don't you? Cheating to win? You should be ashamed."
My son was shocked. I stepped forward ready to intervene, but then something unexpected happened. Karen's outburst had escalated far beyond what any of us could have imagined as she snatched the wooden sword from my boy's hand, raising it with a chilling intent to strike. In that split second, time seemed to slow down for me as my own body moved to intervene, but I knew I wouldn't make it in time to shield my son from her attack. It felt like a nightmare unfolding in front of my eyes. But just when it seemed that all hope was lost, the Soke, the Grand Master of the dojo, appeared out of nowhere, and he swiftly stepped between Karen and my son. I watched breathless as he used the wooden sword to block Karen's strike. Karen, with a wild look in her eyes, she shifted her attention from my son to the Grand Master himself, and she tried to attack him instead. And then, in a series of swift, impressive moves, the Soke disarmed her. The wooden sword fell from her grasp, but she wasn't done yet. She charged at him, raising her hands, trying to get a piece of him. But he used his own sword to strike certain pressure points on her body. It was as if he knew exactly where to hit to disrupt her balance and leave her incapacitated. Finally, she crumbled to the ground. The Soke turned to me, his expression softening as he saw the fear in my eyes. He nodded, a reassuring gesture that told me everything will be alright. All the parents gathered together looking worried and surprised. We saw the police coming into the dojo with serious faces. When Karen was put in handcuffs and taken away, everyone in the dojo let out a sigh of relief, including the instructors. When it was my turn to talk to the police, I explained what happened before Karen was arrested. I talked about how scared I was when she raised the wooden sword and how relieved I was when the Grand Master stepped in. The police listened to us and collected information, and eventually, the cameras supported our story, and Karen was eventually taken away out of there in a police car, a pair of shiny handcuffs. So yeah, that day I left with my son holding his hand a bit tighter, thankful that he is safe despite everything awful that happened. I came to the US to be with my husband. At first everything was okay. I had some money saved up and a job I could do from home. But then that job stopped, and my savings started going down. After 6 months, the money ran out. My husband, he earns more than enough for us. But when I asked him for money, even just a bit for personal stuff like shampoo or soap, he refused. He said he provides shelter and food. Like it's a joke. He made me feel like he's doing enough, just not spoiling me. I sell things from back home online sometimes just to get a little money. He doesn't hide how much he makes. I've seen his pay slips, investment papers, and everything. We submitted those for immigration, so I know we're not struggling. He's just really tight with money. I remember one time I told him I needed sanitary pads. He looked at me like I asked for a fortune. He said, "You want me to pay for that too?" It made me feel so small. I'm not asking for anything grand, just basic things. Things I used to buy myself without a second thought. It's frustrating, you know? He could easily help, but he chooses not to. And I'm not asking for a lot, just a little consideration, a bit of understanding. He jokes about taking away shelter and food like I'm being unreasonable. But all I want are the things that help me take care of myself. Is that really too much to ask? I once suggested that he add me to his cart just temporarily. He shot that down with a big fat no. He buys groceries, sure, but they are all things he likes. When I needed grocery money, he handed me $20 for a whole week and then had the nerve to ask for change. Another time he gave me $60 and wanted an itemized list of everything I bought. It's like I'm being treated like a kid who can be trusted. And those trips to the Asian grocery store don't even get me started. He acts like he's doing me this huge favor by taking me there, but it always turns into a whole ordeal. He watches every single thing I put in a cart like I'm spending his life savings. It's like I need to give him a standing ovation for the grand effort of accompanying me. I just wanted to feel like I'm part of this household, like my needs matter too. But every time I ask for a little help, it's like I'm asking for the world. I'm getting more and more frustrated. It's not about wanting extravagant things. Some days, all I want is a cup of coffee to relax, a simple pair of shoes, a new book. I don't think of these as luxuries. They are just little things that help me feel better. It's about my mental well-being. I hate having to lie to my friends saying I can't join them for a basic lunch because I don't have money. He says it's up to me to find the funds if I want to do things like that. I've tried talking to him about how I feel, but every time I end up crying, and he makes it seem like it's my fault for not saving enough to cover this time without work. He says the same thing over and over again. I keep telling myself that when I can work and earn my own money again, things will get better. He says he doesn't expect me to split everything down the middle when I start working. But this waiting period is messing with my head. So am I wrong for feeling frustrated with my spouse who won't give me money? Or am I just being entitled here? Being in an interracial marriage, I feel like I should be more understanding of cultural differences, but I don't want to convince myself that it's normal or okay. It feels like a form of financial abuse, and I don't want to downplay that. I guess what I'm trying to figure out is if it's reasonable to want to be treated like a true partner, to have my needs considered, and to not feel like I'm begging for scraps. Is that too much to ask for? And now some comments on the post. Someone says, "You're not wrong at all. It seems more like he treats you as someone he brought in just for sex and in return gives you a place to live and internet. If you're taking care of the house while he works, you absolutely deserve all the things you've talked about, and even more. My own mother-in-law went through something like this because of our culture. She lived like this for a long time until she finally spoke up and demanded access to the money she earned, which was a lot. Even if you're not making money right now, you're still an equal in this house. Is this a cultural thing? Or is your husband just a really big jerk? You're definitely not a jerk here, and you're handling things really calmly and kindly." Another commenter adds, "Not that jerk. Not allowing your personal hygiene? That's abusive. Get a job, anything, and start saving money. And leave his butt. If you can't move back where you are from, I'm assuming you have family there. There is no way I'd stay the allotted time to get a green card with an abusive narcissist that you are married to." A third commenter goes with, "You're definitely not the bad one here. My wife came all the way from France to Texas with me. She just got her green card approved yesterday, so I know exactly how this process goes. Your husband is acting really mean because you can't even work until you're allowed to. Honestly, it seems like he doesn't care about you much. He just won't try to understand your side of things. If I did this to my wife, we'd probably be getting a divorce. No doubt about it. By the way, I don't have much money. I used up everything I had while I was with my wife in France. So when I came back to Texas, I had no money and had to move in with my mom. But I still do my best to make my wife happy. We go on dates, and every Sunday when we shop for groceries, she gets what she wants. I buy her clothes or shoes when she needs them. And that's what a good husband who wants his wife to be happy does. The situation with your husband is a big warning sign. If I were you, I'd even think about going back to my home country and waiting for the visa process. I'm genuinely upset because I've experienced how hard and tough this process is myself. And it's just plain wrong to not even give you basic things that you need. Okay, gather around and let me tell you about the time my girlfriend and I stumbled upon something unexpected and absolutely entitled in her rented apartment complex. So my girlfriend's got her own place, which is pretty cool. She's got a property manager who's, well, quite a character. And by character I mean a totally creep and entitled one. This guy apparently thinks he's a spa owner or something, because he's been suggesting to my girlfriend that she should strip down and let him give her a massage. Seriously? Of course my girlfriend's not having any of that nonsense. She straight up tells him no multiple times. But you know how entitled folks are. They just can't take a hint. So she decides to take it up a notch and brings this up with a landlord. And here is where it gets even more bizarre. The landlord's response? Gaslighting 101. He basically tells her that she should have just said no to the manager instead of running to him with her complaints. Classic case of shifting the blame, right? But hey, at least after that chat, the manager backs off for the most part. Fast forward a bit, and I'm hanging out at my girlfriend's place, just minding my own business. For some reason, I decide to do a little online digging and check out the sex offender registry. And guess who pops up? You guessed it. The massage enthusiast property manager is there. Clear as day. Now you might be wondering, did I immediately tell my girlfriend? Well, no, not right away. I figured dropping that bomb might freak her out a tad too much. A few days pass and guess what arrives in the mail? An anonymous postcard for every tenant in the complex. The postcard reads, "A convicted sex offender has keys to your home." And as if that isn't chilling enough, there's a QR code that leads to this guy's profile on a state sex offender registry website. You can imagine the shockwave that ripples through the place. It's like something straight out of a crime show. My girlfriend's understandably freaked out now and she's not alone. A bunch of her neighbors are equally concerned, rightfully so. So they decide to take matters into their own hands and lawyer up. Yep, they hire a lawyer to help them navigate this messed up situation. I mean, who wouldn't want some legal firepower when you're dealing with a creepy property manager? The lawyer drafts up a letter, a real professional one, demanding the landlord replace the manager or offer them a different property that doesn't come with a side of criminal activity. What do you know? The landlord actually steps up, but in a way that no one saw coming. He doesn't just replace the guy, he sends him back into a less than desirable part of town. Yeah, stay classy, fellas. And remember, always check that one registry, because you never know what surprises awaits.
And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.